Hi, everyone. You are listening to Jake Roberts. I'm the video producer here at Better Business Bureau. Although now that we've ventured into podcasting, my title should probably change.
Podcast God.
And I'm here with...
I'm Kimberly Roland. I'm the Director of Entrepreneur Programs at your Better Business Bureau.
What does a Director of Entrepreneur Programs do at Better Business Bureau?
We're still working on that.
Yeah?
You've asked me that question a few times in some videos. So I was hired to bring online our third building on our campus here in Phoenix. So we have campuses now in San Diego, Yuma, all across northern Arizona, here in Phoenix as well, Orange County. But we have a beautiful campus in Phoenix with multiple buildings. So I was hired 1 year ago to bring online a co-working space, which we are working on getting opened as we speak. And
Phoenix is the proving ground for that idea within the BBB system, right?
Yes, that's what we think. Yes, we think we're the first to do this, and whatever we do, we would love for it to scale. Pieces, not every BBB has an amazing campus with 3 buildings, so we are very fortunate in that sense. But in addition, or I should say, in addition, we are working on programming that can be delivered to entrepreneurs, innovators, small business owners, and that programming will come in the form of a summit, which we can talk more about, that we're hosting our first summit this Friday. It may come in the format of a longer incubator program that will occur on weeknights for business owners and maybe like a cohort-based model over several months. It will come in services that will be delivered in the co-working space and here in our business and community center where we are recording our podcast. So there's a lot of other programmatic pieces that I'm also working on here with our creative services team at Better Business Bureau. So it's really exciting, everything that we're doing. And this podcast piece is a dream come true because, Jake, you and I have talked about it for almost a year.
Yeah. I've been a podcast listener since high school, and the idea of doing my own podcast has been something I've wanted to do for a long time. And I do have my own personal podcast that I do with some movie friends of mine. But then to bring that into work and have that be a source of content that we can put out to not only enrich our accredited businesses experience with Better Business Bureau, but also to educate potential accredited businesses, new businesses, entrepreneurs, everything like that.
It's exciting.
Such a good idea.
Yeah, it's super exciting because, like you said, podcasts they've been around for a long time, but they're really getting kind of a renaissance in the last few years. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's because they're easier to even listen to now? Like, as a non-Apple person, it's so easy for me to find and listen to and follow a lot of podcasts on my Android device using Spotify. Shout out to Android.
I'm an iPhone person. But, I think you're right. There are more podcasts, and there are only going to be more podcasts. And I think it's because, think about it. We're in maybe the second decade of podcasts being a thing. Think about how many radio stations popped up the second decade after, broadcast became a thing, so and then not only that, but people are becoming more savvy to the technology needed for podcasting. It's becoming cheaper as well. I think it's becoming more of a necessity from a content creator perspective. I've got my YouTube channel, I've got my Vimeo, I've got my Instagram, now I've got my podcast. I think it's if you're a part of making a brand, that's just one more tool for getting the word out.
Do you think some of it also has to do with, as cities become bigger, especially a city like Phoenix with so much commuting, people, have more time in a vehicle or in a commute. So it's kind of a captive time. And unfortunately, as people go less and less away from reading printed newspapers, which I still love, but everyone has a phone. Almost everyone has a pair of earbuds, right?
Wait, you still read print? Not even on your phone. You go to the gas station?
Yes.
And get the AZ Republic?
Absolutely, yes. I was getting it delivered to my house for a long time. I just recently ended that subscription, but I was getting the New York Times delivered. I love having a hard copy of a newspaper in my hand. There's nothing that compares, you know, getting the ink on your fingers, being able to flip through the different sections, seeing the photos printed. I love, and I get so many weird stares, especially as a millennial. But I met someone at the Arizona Republic a few years ago. She was one of the main editors, and she actually gave me a hug, and she almost started crying. She's like, "Thank you so much." And I was like, she's like, "Yeah, I mean," she admitted print is almost dead, but I think print, just like podcasts, right? Or what else? What another great analogy is vinyl.
Right.
Coming
Vinyl's
back
renaissance.
Oh, huge right now. Last decade, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it never died. There was always people who had vinyl, but it's like...
It stayed alive with like DJs and stuff.
Yes.
But now we've got this kind of like 80s, 90s nostalgia kind of kick going.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get that way with newspapers and even magazines, because I felt like magazines were kind of dipping off, but still, like, you see magazines. If magazines were totally obsolete, they wouldn't be at every checkout, you know, counter at every grocery store still. Like, so people are still buying these things, but I do think podcasts are amazing because they are insanely portable. So you could be listening to this anywhere.
Right. And like the good thing about podcasts though is like the analog version of a podcast, I guess, would be radio, right? But in order to be on the radio, you need to have a millionaire kind of backing you up to provide the station, to provide the airtime, you know, have the antenna, you know. You don't need any. We put this together for under $1,000.
Yeah, maybe we can do a real meta type podcast in the future, in the near future here, about how to start a podcast.
How to start a podcast, how to like improve your brand with podcasting.
Yes. Podcast on podcast on podcast.
Yeah. But like, no, yeah, you're totally right. Podcasting enables you to hear a lot of different voices, right? It enables a more diverse crowd, which is a good thing. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to start a BBB podcast, for a lot of reasons, right? I think one of the reasons that I was really excited about was to invite entrepreneurs in and record with us,
yes,
and kind of hear their stories.
Absolutely.
Right? You want to talk about that idea? That
yes,
it's your idea.
No, I mean, we're going to implement it together though. So absolutely love, one of my favorite podcasts that I find so easy to listen to is NPR's How I Built This. Shout out to NPR. Shout out to How I Built This. Shout out to anyone that wants to sponsor our podcast at a more local level. I think it's a great podcast because, first of all, the format, you know, it's very straightforward and simple, yet it has been consistent. I think he's done hundreds, if not thousands, of shows at this point. So he brings in people who are the founders of these really large corporations and organizations that are household names, right? And he interviews them about their story. And what I love about it is it doesn't glamorize the process. Like, he talks about where they failed and their difficulties in starting up and even their existing difficulties. So I think that's a huge issue with the entrepreneur scene, not just in Phoenix, but in general, is like this glamorization of this entrepreneur life, and you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or Sheryl Sandberg. You know, it's not going to happen for 99.999% of people. That being said, there's thousands of amazing business people all around our state and all around the country that have small businesses, family-owned businesses, and they're really successful. They're putting out a great product or service. They have amazing customer loyalty. They do a great job marketing. And
they're doing all that without being like a nationally traded company.
Exactly.
Or being the next hottest like tech company, you know.
Most of them are, right. Exactly right, Jake. And so the thing about it is, unfortunately, and fortunately for us, is that podcast, it has a cult following now, How I Built This. And so he is interviewing these very famous folks. So my inspiration, one of the ideas when we talked about putting a podcast together, was let's interview our local celebrities and our local heroes who are business owners, and let's have them tell their story, because yes, there will be some similarities, but they're going to have a different story as well, regarding how they started their plumbing company, how they started their pool service, how they started their consulting firm, their chiropractic office. I mean, we have members across so many sectors and industries. I think it's going to be really fascinating to just, you know, learn from them, how they started their business. The other thing I personally love learning is I love hearing people's backstories, because most folks who are business owners did not start that business right out of high school or college. They had a corporate career. They worked for a nonprofit. And so I personally love that backstory. And that's why I'm excited for Beth from Vox Landscaping. She's giving the keynote address at our Industrious Women Summit on Friday the 24th.
Ironically enough, Beth has a background in broadcast.
Does she really?
Yeah, she worked at a radio station.
Oh my gosh. Okay, see, I didn't even realize that. That's so funny. All I knew was that she has this huge personality. The first time I ever got to meet her was here in this studio when you were filming her video for our Torch Awards. Yeah, Torch Awards for Ethics. And she was a finalist, and then her company won the award this year in 2018. And I was like, this woman is really magnetic. She draws all like energy to her. She puts it back out. And so she was the perfect person to have for our first ever Industrious Women Summit to kick off the morning. You know, people are pretty tired on a Friday morning. She's going to tell her story kind of in a format like we want to do on this podcast of tell us what her career path is. And she describes it as like a windy path. And she started many ventures. And now she has this really successful, really high-end landscaping company. And so I knew she had a lot of previous experience, but I didn't know it was in broadcasting. So that makes sense.
She's been a client of ours on the sponsorship side for, I can say, years now. So I've worked with her a lot. She's great. I love hearing her like weird stories from like the 80s and 90s. So it'd be great to listen to her talk about like her start and getting to where she is now.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, she's a great business owner.
We'll definitely have to bring her in for a podcast too.
I think she would love that too. She'd be so down for that.
Well, the other exciting thing about podcasts is it's not just a selfish way for us to sit here and talk about BBB and like indoctrinate people, but it's really a place where you can talk about ideas and share stories. And I think it provides a lot of value to small business owners, right? Because there are some small business owners who maybe they're 10 employees or less and they aren't a big organization like BBB. We're a nonprofit organization, and now we have over 100 employees. So we have like a full service marketing team, and that's why we're very fortunate to have the resources on our staff that we do. And so that's another service we're going to be able to bring our members is this podcast studio. So first of all, it's a service because, you know, if you're a business owner, you can listen to this podcast for free while you're driving. You know, if you're on a job and you want to download it and have it plugged in, if that's something you do, you know, if you normally listen to music or another podcast. So it's going to be a free resource for fellow business owners to listen to and then also to contribute to and to be on the show. And then you could put that content back out to your audience. So it's kind of like a triple or quadruple win.
Yeah. And like it's such a natural move for Better Business Bureau, right? Because people see us as like a consumer watchdog group, right? Which we are.
To an extent.
Which that's part of like the services we offer. But to open up and blaze this new trail of like of helping businesses become better, of like giving them the tools and resources and educational programs they need to get to where they want to be.
Yes.
Like, why not, you know?
I agree. It's very exciting. I mean, the other thing that just makes natural sense, like you said, Jake, was we are a nonprofit organization, which I already mentioned, but we are a 501c6, which means we are supported by our members who are business owners. So we want to provide so many resources and services to them, even once you've started, right? Because there's a lot of business owners that are they've already started, they have established clientele, but they're ready to grow or scale their business. So we want to provide tips, tricks, resources to them. The other group that we're really trying to work with the co-working space and with some of our entrepreneur programs are folks who are starting up, which historically Better Business Bureau has not helped, right? Because you needed to be in business for 6 to 12 months before you could even contact us, really. And the thing about it is, it's hard to start a business. There's a lot of great free resources out there, but it's also hard to even know where to find those resources. And some of them you can't find physically in person. They're only online, and you have to kind of jump through a million different websites, and it's not intuitive. It's not easy. And so we want to be kind of a one-stop shop where people can come and learn how to build a better business.
Right. What we hope in the future is your first thought when you're starting your business is to go to BBB and start from there.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
That's exciting. It's very visionary, but I think it's also very realistic and attainable for us. And so that's why I'm excited for this podcast. because it's a really important next step for us.
That's the kind of stuff that you can expect from this podcast. Should we talk about some like potential guests? Not that they're like
to add pressure to them
confirmed or anything. Yeah,
we could. I mean, we already said Beth, so now maybe she's gonna feel obliged.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well,
I think she'll totally be like, yes.
Yes, she will. Yeah. She's awesome. I think, I mean, like we said, we want to invite our members in, and I also want to bring in folks who are more on this is a confusing way to say it because it means different things to different people, but service providers, okay? So I would consider us a service provider. I would consider the Small Business Administration a service provider. I would consider the Small Business Development Centers, which are part of the SBA, but they're located within the community college system, a service provider. So anyone who has resources, be it paid or free for entrepreneurs and business owners, I also want to bring them in to do interviews because a lot of them, again, have great resources that a lot of folks don't actually know about because they're somewhat bureaucratic, right? Or they're offered in weird locations, or they're difficult to come across.
Or even that they don't have the funding to get that stuff out on a large scale.
Yeah. Limited marketing, exactly. Or they only rely on referrals. So I want to bring those folks in as well to tell about the resources that they have, to share their stories about, because a lot of these folks are also business owners themselves, right? They have a heart for helping other business owners. So some of them do this for their full-time job, right? They like consult or do they give free resources or help with incubator programs. And then the evenings, they're running their own business. So that's kind of like this other layer that's really interesting. I also think it'll be really fun to interview some of our staff in the podcast just to talk about the jobs that they do. I think it's exciting for them to share their story. And it's also helpful for the public to understand all that we do here.
Definitely.
What else? Do you have other ideas too?
The podcast can just be so many things that like I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too.
So, Kimberly, we're having an event this Friday. Can you talk about that?
Yes, we are so excited. This is our inaugural Industrious Women's Summit, and it is co-sponsored by Arizona State University's Entrepreneurship and Innovation Unit via a grant that we received from the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City. And so the Kauffman Foundation, they're amazing, phenomenal resource for entrepreneurs. They exist to help entrepreneurs. It is the coolest organization, and they're really interested and focused on increasing diversity in entrepreneurship. And so when we won this grant, we had the idea to put together an event for women, really geared towards women in the service industries, which we won't define. We intentionally kind of left that vague. And we thought at first it was going to be this like half-day, very brief, kind of summit. So we called it a summit. And it turns out that it is a full-day conference being hosted here at BBB on Friday. It is sold out like multiple times over. We have a wait list. We have 25 speakers. We're catering breakfast and lunch. Like, it has grown so huge just in the last month. It's kind of mind-boggling.
It's great to see such interest in that kind of event too, right?
Oh, yeah. And the thing about it, too, is I know it's called Industrious Women Summit, and obviously it's really geared towards women business owners. However, the content is agnostic in the sense that anyone is going to be able to learn. We don't have like specific, very gendered sessions whatsoever. It's interesting to talk about women in industries that are very traditionally male dominated, but seeing women business owners succeed. We're just excited because there has been so much interest in the community, and to see it sell out so quickly, it's very telling that while Phoenix is a huge like event and networking city, if you put together something with really substantive content, people will come, right? So that's what's important to us. And also just speaking to folks who a lot of times feel left out of the conversation, to be totally frank. I'm very involved in the SPHX and the startup community, and I also acknowledge that that community is really geared towards and very focused on folks in the tech sector, which is great, which is important because that's the future that we're moving towards. However,
most business owners are
small businesses, are not tech startups, are not tech companies. In the 21st century, I believe you're going to have to evolve to have tech components to any type of business to sustain yourself and to thrive. However, again, until we have robots that can basically do everything and replace us on all levels, there's going to be a need for all of the service providers and all of the people that are speaking at our summit. So that's what's exciting. The other thing that's really cool to me, because we're talking about some more tangible business topics, but at lunch we're bringing in Megan Garcia from New America, which is a national think tank. And New America in the last year has really focused on research in Indianapolis and Phoenix. And they're talking about the future of work and automation and how automation is going to impact not just business owners, but their employees, and how business owners are going to need to reskill their employees or upskill them, because as automation becomes a reality, it is going to displace workers in some of these service industries, right? As things become robotized, or is that a word?
Automated.
As AI becomes more prevalent. I mean, these are discussions you need to think about. And that being said, a lot of times, like a small business owner, the ones that I've spoken to, they tend to think that's more futuristic. That's only going to impact like car manufacturers and people who are doing large scale manufacturing. Mm-hmm. But it isn't. I mean, automation is coming.
They have cameras now that will follow you automatically. So my job's at stake.
Right, exactly. So that's why I think it's going to be a fascinating discussion, because Megan is going to present the data and then she's going to just foster a discussion, because we just don't have enough time. She's given this presentation over an 8-hour period and we only have an hour because the schedule is just so jam-packed. But I could see that spinning out to be almost a separate conference as well in and of itself. But so we're super psyched about this event. We think it could be a real signature program that BBB puts on, and a really great way to bring together, again, a diverse group of business owners. A lot of these folks, they stay within their industry, right? So there's some really good networking groups for HVAC professionals, for mechanics, I'm sure. But there hasn't been an event, to our knowledge, that brings together folks from across these trades. And so we even have a few speakers who were pleasantly surprised and said, wow, I didn't know we had a women-owned mechanic shop in Phoenix. So that's what's so cool about it. It's like happening really organically, and we're really excited. And that event in and of itself, oh my goodness, if we asked each speaker we have coming on Friday, Jake, to come do a podcast, we're set through 2018 into 2019.
We've got all of our guests.
We do.
Up. Yeah.
So yeah, we're really excited for the Industrious Women's Summit on Friday, and we can't wait to share the results, the outcomes, the next steps, because we do think that with the demand we've experienced, it's going to become an annual event for Better Business Bureau. So if anything that you've heard today piques your interests, gets you excited, brings ideas to mind, where should people go, Jake?
They should send an email to info@bbbcommunity.org.
Nice.
Yes. And we'll get back to you. We'll, have a back and forth conversation, see what we can do.
Yeah. We're so excited to hear from you. Send us your ideas for topics, if there's things you want to hear about. If you want to be a guest on our new podcast, sign up while you can. Mm-hmm. If you'd be interested in having your company sponsor an episode, I think we're open to that as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you guys are excited about the podcast, subscribe to it anywhere you listen to podcasts, and come back next time.